by Peliswa on the telephone lines. And for the sign language, I'm going to be assisted by Nicolene and Elva. And it's over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much, DG Pumla Williams. Good morning to all those who are watching this live broadcast. As the DG has already indicated, we are here to speak to South Africa on the outcomes of the virtual cabinet meeting that was held yesterday. We therefore welcome all those that will be listening to us, and again repeat what we always say. We don't take your listening to us for granted. We appreciate it. The cabinet, amongst others, reflected on the coronavirus level 2, alert level 2. And it is of the firm view that the move from alert level 3 to alert level 2 of the national lockdown with effect from August 18, 2020 has resulted in the welcome relaxation of restrictions on some of the socio-economic activities. This significant transition from level 3 to level 2 will inevitably revive our economy and contribute to the creation of much-needed jobs, particularly in the tourism and hospitality industry. Alert level 2 will make it possible once again for ministers to present themselves before the two houses of parliament, the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces, to, amongst others, answer questions from members of parliament. While the second wave of infections experienced by several other countries is an ever-present possibility, our collective actions over the next few weeks and months can prevent that from happening and will determine how quickly we move further forward. Cabinet calls on everyone to take extra precautions and practice responsible behavior, do the right things so that we avoid a second peak of infections. Government is working with social partners and communities to ensure that districts are adequately resourced and organized to contain the spread of the coronavirus. Our nation has made great strides in fighting the pandemic. Our good work, all of us, all South Africans, from various positions, those at home, those at schools, those at the various workplaces, we have done very, very well. And indeed, it is because of this work that all of us have collectively contributed to that we have seen the infections going down in our country. And we are proud that collectively, as we have always said, we have been able to confront this disease and hit it where it matters most. But again, we have not defeated this virus. As we all know, unfortunately, our good work is being undermined by the reckless actions of some people who refuse to take personal responsibility to prevent the spread of the virus. Those who drive under the influence of alcohol and behave recklessly are endangering the lives of innocent people. As a result of such reckless behavior, again, as we all know, this week we mourn the untimely death of 3 Tshwane Metro Police Department officers who lost their lives in a tragic crash with a drunk driver this past weekend. This fatal accident is a wake-up call to all of us, individually and collectively, to reflect on what we can do to begin acting responsibly and playing our part in curbing alcohol abuse. Cabinet urges all people in South Africa to continue observing the health protocols even during Alert Level 2. That we are in Alert Level 2 does not mean that the threat of infections has disappeared. We must all maintain social distancing, wear our masks regularly in public places, and regularly wash our hands with water and soap or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. These are the key messages that have made us to be able to fight against this coronavirus. And not only us as a country, but all countries of the world have used these three protocols to fight against COVID-19, particularly in the absence of a vaccine. We therefore once again would like to repeat that let's continue wearing our masks, let's continue social distancing, because the only way of getting this disease is through contact. So if we are unable to contact one another, we make it impossible for this disease to spread amongst us. But of course, we should also continue to regularly wash our hands, because we can also get this disease from surfaces. So if we wash our hands regularly or use sanitizers, we will indeed mitigate against us getting this disease from anything, including surfaces. The second matter that we want to speak to is return to school and tertiary institutions. Cabinet welcomed the reopening of primary and secondary schools under our Department of Basic Education this past Monday, the 24th of May 2020, the 24th of August, 2020. Grades 6 and 11 learners returned to classes on Monday, while grade 7 and 12 learners returned last month following the temporary closure of schools to prevent the potential spread of COVID-19. Cabinet also welcomed the announcement that under Alert Level 2 lockdown, all universities will be allowing the controlled return of students to campus-based tuition in line with the criteria published in the Government Gazette, Volume 660, number 4314 on 8 June 2020. According to the criteria developed under Level 2 of the lockdown, a maximum of 66% of students will be allowed to return to university campuses. Cabinet also welcomed the staggered return of technical and vocational education and training colleges students, the reopening of community education and training centers, and the return of staff to their workplace. This will be done in terms of the detailed COVID-19 management plans in place across the sector and to ensure the continued safety of students and staff while allowing for greater access to campus teaching and learning for more students. Of course, we also know that even the Department of Basic Education has put in protocols to mitigate against either teachers or learners contracting COVID-19 in our basic education institutions. Cabinet will continue to support the Minister of Basic Education and indeed the Minister of Higher Education in ensuring that we as South Africa do not lose the 2020 schooling and academic year. In this regard, they can bank on us, teachers can bank on us, the students at universities can bank on us, and indeed, all our pupils at various schools can bank on us, as well as our teachers in all those institutions. The third matter I want to speak to is anti-corruption. Cabinet reiterated its commitment to ensure that allegations of corruption relating to COVID-19 procurement are swiftly investigated by law enforcement agencies such as the Special Investigating Unit. Those implicated must and should be severely punished. And money stolen from the state by unscrupulous companies and individuals must indeed be recovered. Cabinet is also pleased with the progress made by the Committee of Ministers appointed a few weeks ago by Cabinet and President, chaired by Justice and Correctional Services Minister Ronald Lamola. The team of ministers was expected to coordinate the compilation of all the COVID-19 procurements and make it accessible to the public. Perhaps we should at this stage again reiterate that this committee was not established to investigate anything, because it doesn't have the capacity nor the powers to investigate. People with the powers to investigate any wrongdoing in the procurement are our law enforcement authorities. This committee was established to compile, as we say in our statement, what has been procured throughout the length and breadth of government as it relates to PPEs, whether at local government level by our municipalities, whether at provincial levels, whether at national departments levels, or whether in our state-owned entities. Indeed, this committee has been able to compile all that information, and working together with Treasury, this committee has been able to put all that information for people to access it in the National Treasury's website. And if you want to access all that information of what has been procured, by which national department, by which provincial department, by which SOE, at what prices, you can go to www.treasury.gov.za. And we can assure all South Africans that all that information is now there. Where there are still shortages of information, we are pursuing those who are very, very few, who have not given us all the information we need, so that that information is made available to the public. That was the essence why this committee was created, to compile all the information around procurement of PPEs throughout the length and breadth of our country, and secondly, make that information available to the public. We have then done so. National Treasury will continue with additional work to refine the submitted information for further processing. Cabinet reaffirms that law enforcement agencies will continue to be responsible for the investigative work, not this committee. Law enforcement agencies will continue to investigate where there is allegation of wrongdoing, and indeed also bring to book any people who might be implicated. The Fusion Center, which coordinates the work of all law enforcement agencies, remain on track to present its first 6-weekly report in the first week of September 2020 to President Cyril Ramaphosa. That is the group of law enforcement agencies that is seized with this matter. They include your SIU, they include your Hawks, they include your NPA. So you have a collaboration of all law enforcement agencies, from those that arrest, from those that prosecute, and those that ensure that we remain in prison if we have done anything wrong. So all of them are now meeting and coordinating together at a place called the Fusion Center here in Johannesburg, where all this information from the various law enforcement agencies is brought together so that indeed they can, in a collaborative way, deal with any malfeasance and any wrongdoing and any fraudulent behavior that emanates from procurement of PPEs, as directed, by the way, by the President Cyril Ramaphosa. And as we are saying, they have a responsibility to report to the President how far they are doing. We are saying in our statement they will be doing their report this coming September, and they will also report on a 6-weekly basis to the President on how far they are doing in curbing corruption, fighting those that are found with their hands in the till, and making sure that people appear before courts to answer for their greed. Cabinet will give the necessary support to all law enforcement agencies. This will include giving them the resources they need to function optimally, independently, without fear, favor, and prejudice, in facilitating the investigation and prosecution of corrupt-related cases without any further delay. The scourge of corruption, which manifests itself in the blatant theft and looting of state resources, is the biggest societal cancer that has the potential to erode public trust in government's considered efforts to improve the lives of the people. What is even more distressing and disappointing is that this form of corruption, as the President has said, robs the poor of much needed assistance from our government. Is this money that should be directed to buy PPEs to protect our poorest of the poor, even in the workplace, that gets diverted to pockets of individuals? Cabinet condemns in the strongest possible terms all acts of corruption and is confident that all wrongdoers will eventually be prosecuted. Cabinet calls on all South Africans to report corruption to the National Anti-Corruption Hotline. Let's all be part of the fight against corruption. Let's all be izimpimpi against corruption. And the hotline is, a National Anti-Corruption Hotline is 0800 701 701. Very simple. 0800 701 701. If you know of any corrupt activities, of course, for now, our focus is on PPEs. But any corrupt activity, this is the number that you can call so that you assist our law enforcement agencies to crack corruption and bring to book all those that are doing fraudulent and corrupt activities. We now come to decisions that have been taken by Cabinet. The first decision that Cabinet has taken is the training program for members of the executive and senior managers in the public service. Cabinet has approved 2 training programs that will give effect to the commitment of building the capacity of the state. We have all of us from time to time said that we need to enhance the capacity of the state. Indeed, these training programs are meant to achieve exactly that. The first one is the Economic Governance Spring School Training for members of the executive from all spheres of government. Ministers, deputy ministers at national level, MECs and premiers at provincial levels, mayors and their excos at local level. So it's for all of us, all those of us who are in executive positions in government. We will then be party to this Economic Governance Spring School. It is designed to broaden learning perspectives through analysis and critical reflection on the nature of challenges of government, particularly under this difficult environment. It will be conducted by the National School of Government, the NSG, in partnership with the West School of Governance and the O.R. Tambo School of Leadership. There are those of us who believe that you are never too wise to learn, and you are never too old to continue to learn. Therefore, on those bases, Cabinet has welcomed that all of us will go back to school under the Economic Governance Spring School to get some more knowledge on analysis and critical reflection on the nature of challenges of government. The second program is designed for heads of departments. It consists of 3 components, namely an executive induction program, executive education program, and a new program to be called Entail. These programs will be conducted by the NSG in partnership with the University College of London. As I speak about these training programs, as Cabinet was reflecting on this, Cabinet said that if there is one thing that we have always been accused of as government, is our inability to implement wonderful policy positions and policies that we have put in the public domain to enhance service delivery. But what has always been a difficulty is implementation. We are hopeful that these training programs for both the ministers, deputy ministers, MECs, premiers and mayors and excos will assist us in confronting this inability to implement what are very good policies and therefore robbing our people service delivery. We therefore have welcomed these training programs. The second matter that Cabinet has approved is the postponement of the hosting of the 2020 International Maritime Organization. Owing to the COVID-19 pandemic, Cabinet has approved the postponement of the hosting of the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, and its parallel event of World Maritime Day from October 2020 to October 2021. Cabinet had approved the hosting of this event in November 2015. So again, we are saying to Minister of Transport, we are still supportive of the hosting of this event. And indeed, the Minister and all stakeholders have said it will almost be impossible this year to get all these important players and stakeholders to gather on our shores. As we all know, for now, there is no international travel. So because of all these reasons, because of COVID-19, we have agreed with the Minister of Transport as Cabinet that let's have these events, the International Maritime Organization meeting or conference, as well as the World Maritime Day in October 2021, as we will be celebrating the Transport Month. We will also have these very seminal activities on our shores. Cabinet has also approved a number of bills. One of those bills is the Agriculture Produce Agents Amendment Bill of 2018. Cabinet approved the submission of the Agriculture Produce Agents Amendment Bill of 2018 to Parliament. The amendments seek to protect the rights of the producers from unregulated aspects of the fresh produce agents. Once passed into law, the agents will, amongst others, be compelled to take out fidelity insurance and keep trust accounts. The amendments proposed in the bill were fully canvassed with all relevant stakeholders. The changes will also improve market access opportunities for smallholder producers as well as previously disadvantaged market agents, traders and hawkers. So indeed, Cabinet has agreed that this Agricultural Produce Agents Amendment Bill must proceed to Parliament. The second bill that the Cabinet has approved is the Sectional Titles Amendment Bill. Cabinet approved the submission of the bill to Parliament. The bill amends the Sectional Titles Act 1986, which provides for the establishment of sectional title schemes. The proposed amendments provide clarity and protect the lessees in the properties under the sectoral arrangement buildings. So indeed, the second bill that Cabinet has agreed that it must proceed to Parliament is the Sectional Titles Amendment Bill. The third bill that Cabinet also agreed that must proceed to Parliament is the Electoral Laws Amendment Bill of 2020. Cabinet approved the submission of the Electoral Laws Amendment Bill of 2020 to Parliament. The bill amends three pieces of legislation, namely the Electoral Commission Act, Electoral Act of 1998, and Local Government Municipal Electoral Act of 2000. The proposed changes will enhance the existing legislative mechanism. The amendments will, amongst others, introduce innovations in electoral practices in keeping with best practices to improve the Independent Electoral Commission's efficiencies in managing elections. The last item that we will speak to is appointments. Under this item, Cabinet has extended the contract of Mr. Hubert Matanzima Mweli as the Director General at the Department of Basic Education for a further 5 years. As we all know, the DG Mweli has been with the Department of Education for 5 years to date. Cabinet has then acceded to the request by the Minister of Basic Education that his contract be extended by another 5 years from this year. You can then do your counting. Cabinet also approved the following members to the South African Post Office Board. The members are Mr. Emmanuel Lechau, Miss Nolita Peters, Mr. Sandile Philip, Mr. Sipoma Jombozi, and Miss Yvette Lillian Mavivi Nyaganyaga Manzini. These are the new board members for the South African Post Office. The Cabinet also approved the new non-executive directors of the Post Bank. And these are Mr. Kobani Mangochwa, Mr. Darwin Zinzile Nkonki, Mr. Tabile Wonri, and Advocate Lay Hefa Hendrikse. These are the matters that emanate from the Cabinet virtual meeting of yesterday. Thank you very much. DG, now I also say to other people, thank you very much to my DG, Pumla Williams.
Thank you very much, Minister. We will entertain questions of clarity. Can I start with the callers? Peliswa.
Thanks, DG. We still don't have calls this side.
Thank you. What's up?
Thank you, DG. We have 2 questions so far. The first one is from Brian Sokutu from The Citizen. And he's saying Minister Mthembu has conceded that rampant corruption has damaged government's reputation. How is government going to win back public trust when past investigations have not yielded results? Okay. The next question is from Anton from Pretoria FM. Did Cabinet discuss a possible reintroduction of the alcohol ban? Will you monitor the use or abuse of alcohol in the same breath? What is Cabinet's reaction on the fake news regarding the alcohol ban that circulated earlier this week? Will you be taking action against the people who circulated those messages? That's what I have so far. Thank you, DG.
Thank you, Minister. You're very clear.
Again, thank you very much to Brian Sokoto and Anton. Brian, all I know is that the President has said to the SIU, to the Hawks, to the NPA, and to the Investigative Directorate that come together and investigate and bring to book all those that are fingered in the fraudulent procurement of PPEs. And as we have said in our statement, Mr. Sokoto, these entities already have started meeting. They are now at a place we called Fusion Center, somewhere in Johannesburg, and I think I must go there. I haven't been there. All of them, they are working to meet this directive that the President has given to them. In fact, as a matter of fact, they will be reporting to the President in September. There will be 6 weekly reports to the President on how far they are, what are they doing, are they arresting, are they investigating, are they making breakthroughs? So that, as you correctly say, we must indeed ensure that the confidence in the work of government is not eroded. The only way we can do so is by acting swiftly and arresting all those involved in corruption. That's the only way. Now, I wouldn't know what do you mean by past investigations, because I only know this investigation of PPEs. If you know of any past investigation of PPEs or corruption around PPEs, Mr. Sokoto, make me wiser, but I'm not aware. I'm aware of this one. And we mean it, the president means it, cabinet means it, that all those who are bringing disrepute to the work of government. There are so many wonderful public servants out there. So many wonderful leaders, political and otherwise, in government. But there's just a blessed few that messes up with our name. Blessed few. And then it appears as if the entirety of government is rotten to the core. Unless we defend ourselves, and the only way of defending ourselves is to get those who are corrupt to book. And that's why we will not interfere with the work of those law enforcement agencies as cabinet. We don't even want to know who's being arrested, even if it is Mthembu who's being arrested. We don't even want to know. We will support them in the work that they do, and give them all the necessary tools that they need through the president, of course, and the relevant ministers. So that's what we can assure you. Already, I've heard the SIU saying to the nation how many corrupt activities are in their books, are they following up? Now, I think that is really encouraging from where, as a South African, from where I'm seated. I've also heard that there are some people who have already started appearing in court. Now, that's information that I've received from the colleagues who are in law enforcement agencies reporting to Parliament, saying that, by the way, on this matter, there are already people who are appearing in court. So that should be encouraging. So that's what I can assure you, Mr. Sokoto, that when we say we must fight corruption, we must show that we're fighting corruption. And from where we are seated, we are showing that we are fighting corruption. We have brought together all these corruption busters. They are working together. They have a place where they are working from. And they are reporting to the head of state regularly on a 6-weekly basis or cycle. And they'll be reporting now in September on how are we dealing with corruption in government and in, by the way, when you say there is corruption in government, it's a two-way stream. Those who are in government are working together with people who are in the private sector. So to us, it doesn't matter whether you are in government or you are in the private sector. When you are corrupt, you are corrupt. You must be arrested and brought to book. Thank you very much for your question, Mr. Sokoto. Anton, maybe let me start with my tweet. My tweet was very correct. After the NCCC meeting on, was it Tuesday? On Tuesday, we got wind through our scorpions that there are people who are misleading the public, saying that the president is going to address the nation and the president is going to ban the sale of alcohol. Now, this matter never even arose in the NCCC meeting. If there is something classically fake news, is this one. It was never even discussed in the NCCC. It never even arose in the NCCC. Now, that's why I, on behalf of government, of course, I used my own Twitter account to refute this fake news, to refute this allegation. Definitely, there was no such a discussion. There is no such a discussion at the moment before either Cabinet or the NCCC, the National Coronavirus Command Council, on banning alcohol. None whatsoever. There is no such a discussion. Your second question is, what do we do with the person who has decided to tell people lies? We leave that to law enforcement authorities. We believe that they are able to see who has misled the public, and they will also be interested in this person, why this person did what he did. So we will leave that to our law enforcement authorities. We believe they have the capacity to deal with fake news peddlers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think we'll only entertain the last round. If there's nothing, we're still okay. There's a caller. Eliswa?
Yes, we have Karima on the line. Karima from ENCA. Karima, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Sister. I have two questions for the Minister, Minister Mthembu. The one is whether Cabinet, when it discussed the issues of corruption, reflected on the impact of the presidential spokesperson, Kusela Diko, and how that reflected on the office of the presidency and the Cabinet, considering that she is the public face, and whether the meeting discussed raising with the presidency the fact that she needs to not just take a leave of absence, but if in fact stand aside and be suspended whilst an investigation is underway. And I'm asking this because of her proximity to power, both in the state and in the governing African National Congress. She is also a Gauteng ANC executive provincial member, and whether her proximity to both government and the governing party could potentially be seen as a way in which the investigation can be interfered with. That's the first question. And then the second question relates to the law enforcement agencies. The Minister spoke about the Fusion Center. I need clarity on whether this means, the comments in the statement that was released, whether this means the Fusion Center is up and running. Because when the Justice Minister, Ronald Lamola, addressed us on this Fusion Center, it looked as if there was still a need to create legislation to give effect to the Fusion Center. But here we have already a report that this Fusion Center is doing work. So I don't have clarity on that. And the reason why I'm asking is precisely because of, let's say, for example, take the NPA. In terms of the NPA Act, it is the President that appoints provincial directors of public prosecution. And the NPA's internal DeCock report fingers two provincial heads, one in the Northwest, Advocate Moiponi Noko, and one here in Gauteng, Advocate Chauke. They are provincial heads. And even though the internal report of the NPA puts into question their behavior, in fact it finds that they have both acted unlawfully, it's the President alone that can decide on whether they remain in their positions. And so far the NPA has indicated that they have not approached the presidency yet with this report, but this report is public knowledge. So I want to know if the presidency and indeed the cabinet reflected on this, because it has a direct impact on the way in which corruption agencies and law enforcement agencies do their work. So I want to know if cabinet reflected on whether or not the president should in fact request from the NPA head, Shamila Batoy, the report, the DeCock report, because it relates directly to the fitness in office of both the head of the NPA in the Northwest as well as here in Gauteng. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karima. What's up?
Yes, DG. We have a question from Jan de Lange from Rapport. He's asking, will government consider opening international borders to SADC countries on similar lockdown levels, such as South Africa? For instance, Namibia recently opened their borders after a successful lockdown period. Paul Vicchiato from Bloomberg is asking, has Cabinet been briefed on the latest developments with regards to SAA, including interested parties who may want to purchase an equity stake? Laila Magnus from SABC News is asking, what exactly will the training of the executive entail? I know it says it will broaden perspectives through analysis and critical reflection on the nature of challenges of government, but what does this mean? Sophie Mukwena, SABC Foreign Editor, is asking, the WHO Director General says stealing money earmarked for PPE is murder. What is the reaction of Cabinet to the statement? Do you agree with Dr. Tedros? And the last question is from Paul, again from Bloomberg. The President reprimanded the Minister of Finance over his remarks about Zambia. This is a very severe sanction. Does the President still have confidence in the Minister of Finance? Thank you, DG.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, I think we had said that it's going to be the last round, and I see there's one caller there. Minister, can we take that one last caller? Okay.
Thank you, Teacher. We have Record on the line.
Who?
Someone from Record newspaper.
Okay, can you allow it?
Please go through. Please proceed to ask the question.
To ask the question. Oh, thank you very much. My question is, following the lifting of the alcohol ban, we saw that terrific accident in Tshwane, and which the government has given quite attention to that. I want to ask Mr. Mthembu, if the government did discuss a suggestion from various experts in terms of alcohol, in terms of a high takes, the concentration of takes of alcohol, and also the probing into the concentration of alcohol that which is sold in South Africa, which some they say that it exceeds the war regulations. That would be my question, if government did actually look into some of those things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's about it, Minister. Is there any pending one?
No, there is none, DG.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you very much to all colleagues that have asked questions. Let me start with Record. It goes without say that as South Africans, we are bad drinkers. We are irresponsible drinkers, many of us. Yes, that's a general statement. But that general statement comes from what happens when we relax restrictions around alcohol, and but the reality is, can you have restrictions on alcohol forever? Should we not have a discussion as South Africans on what do we need to do to drink like other nations? You know, we don't drink, we drink like fish. And that's why I was listening to a phone-in program in one of our radio stations, Radio 2000, which I always listen to, by the way, and Metro and others. But yesterday, Radio 2000 was on this matter of us drinking as if there is no tomorrow. Now, of course, the Minister of Transport is doing his best to say, what do we do when people get into their cars and they have this alcohol in their blood. He is doing something around it. But it's not only that issue. When some of us have taken, we even become monsters in our own homes. We do all sorts of unthinkable things to our wives, to our children, to our girlfriends, to our boyfriends. So, and even to the society that we live with, to our neighbors. We become a nuisance, some of us. Of course, there are a few who don't become a nuisance. What do? We need a societal engagement, and that's what we are saying in the statement to the colleague from Record. We have not, as cabinet, concluded what needs to be done, because we can't conclude that. It's a matter that we, all of us as society, all of us as NGOs, all of us as the media, all of us as the churches, all of us as traditional leaders, all of us as sports people, arts people. I think all of us as society, community leaders, we must come together and just reflect on this. It's quite an embarrassment. Those of us who have been to other countries, you don't see accidents on their roads caused by people who have imbibed in liquor. You don't see their health institutions being overloaded by people as a consequence of violence that is ascribed to people who had liquor content. You don't see those things in other countries. And I therefore agree with you, Record. Whilst the cabinet has always decried that we are bad drinkers, but cabinet has also said, as we say in the statement, we need a societal discussion. How do we stop that? Somebody asked whether the cabinet discussed the Minister of Finance. No, because as we all know, the president has already intervened in that area. So there was absolutely no need for cabinet to engage on the matter of the Minister of Finance in another country. So we have left that matter to the capable hands of the president. And that's where it is as we speak. Sophie Mkwena asked that do we concur with the World Health Organization saying that stealing from people through PPEs is tantamount to murder? We agree, definitely. That statement is very apt. Apart from robbing people of what is theirs, what should be theirs in terms of proper PPE, well priced, you then also rob them of their monies that are in their fiscus by inflating the costs. When people do not have PPE because monies have been stolen, and they die because they don't have personal protective equipment because money has been stolen, then of course the analogy that this is tantamount to murder is very correct. So all those who are engaging in fraudulent activities, all those who are engaging in corrupt activities around the procurement of PPEs, of course, we leave that to the law enforcement authorities. We don't interfere in their line of work. But there is absolutely nothing wrong in categorizing these thieves as murderers. SABC is asking, what will the training of government ministers and deputy ministers entail? Well, we are saying that all of us are not above being educated on how best to do our job better. And that's basically what I can say in a nutshell. How do we do our job better? how do we ensure implementation of policies that are there in the public domain, which we and the public have said we are failing to implement? But how do our directors general, our heads of departments, assist us as the executive authority in implementing for service delivery? That is in essence what the training is about. Of course, we will also ask the Minister of Public Service and Administration, together with the National School of Government, after we have been trained, to come and speak to the media, what this training entails and what are the expected outcomes. But Cabinet has agreed that we all need to be trained. We are not old enough not to be trained. We must be trained, we must be educated to improve the capacity of the state. Both us and also our heads of departments and DGs. Paul asks, was there a briefing on the South African Airways? Yes, but not concluded. We are meeting as cabinet on Saturday to further delve into the matter of the South African Airways. That's why it's not in the statement, because the matter is still before cabinet. We have not concluded it. So we are therefore meeting on Saturday. Dilange, open international borders? No. There is a clear decision by cabinet that at the moment it will not be opportune to open international borders for very good reasons. For the very same reasons that these borders were closed in the first instance. Yes, we are doing our best to decrease the rate of infections in our country. We therefore should not risk the lives of the people of South Africa by getting people from other countries to visit our shores at this stage. Of course, all that is under review. All that is under review. Yes, we are speaking to professionals. We are being advised by professionals from time to time, but ultimately the decision will be a decision of cabinet, will be decision of the NCCC, with the advice, of course, of professionals, health professionals. But at the moment, we are still not open for international travel for the very same reasons that we closed international travel in the first instance, as a serious risk on the infections around COVID-19. Karema, I don't know what you want us to say on Ms. Diko, because the presidency issued a statement and said that she remains on what do you call this, precautionary suspension. That's it. That's where she is. And precautionary suspension, by the very nature of the suspension, it means that whilst investigation is afoot, you remove yourself or you get removed so that you don't interfere with investigations. So yes, investigations are afoot around the allegations that were directed at Kusela Diko and her husband, and herself. She opted to go on precautionary leave. She even tweeted about it. She even Facebook about it, which we appreciated, that she is taking leave and allow the investigative processes to continue unabated. So that has happened. What we are asking us to do has in fact happened, Karima Brown. You will also know that all matters that borders on fraudulent acquisition of PPEs, those matters are also before the Special Investigative Unit, including this issue, by the way. So all these matters are being investigated. Nothing is being hidden. Whether you are a Jackson Mthembu is in the presidency or any other South African, we are being treated the same because all of us are equal before the law. And all of us must be seen to be treated equally. And that's why Kusela is not at work. This matter is being investigated by the Special Investigative Unit together with other procurement of PPEs throughout the length and breadth of our country. So that's all that we can say on the matter. At departmental level, of course, is the Directors General that deals with employee matters. So, and in fact, it will be the Director General that will also continue to deal with this matter at the level of the presidency. But in relation to investigations that are broader, investigations that are also conducted by the coordinated structures of our law enforcement authorities, Kusela Diko is not immune from those investigations. She is part of those. She's being investigated as well by the Fusion Center. Your second question, Karima, you was around law enforcement agencies, the Fusion Center, and you talk of a DCOC report. Let me assure that I don't know that report, and indeed I'm going to look for it now. If you say it's in the public domain, I don't know it, but I can assure you that we have capable ministers who, within the domain of their work, will know what's happening, and they will also act swiftly where there are people who are fingered for wrongdoing. In this instance, you have named two people that you say that are in the DCOC report, and I'm quite confident that the relevant ministers or minister will be able to get to grips with this matter. But indeed, this matter did not arise in the cabinet meeting. We did not discuss a DCOC report. That's why I don't know it. But all we can say is that when we talk of a fusion center, we don't talk of individuals. When we talk of a fusion center, is a code. In fact, it would have been good, and I think that's what the Minister of Justice is working on, so that at some stage we must be able to come to South Africans and say, here is a structure in our law enforcement regime, a structure that deals with corruption. So but in the absence of such a structure in our law enforcement authorities, we then work together with we bring together your NPA, your independent directorate that deals with economic crimes and other related crimes. We bring also together your hawks, your very specialized investigative units, to work together to deal with corruption. So that's what the Fusion Center is. It has nothing to do with individuals. It's the institutions that are coming together to do what the president and government has asked them to do: arrest and investigate those that are involved in corruption. Now, it's not individuals, it's not the director there and whatever there, but indeed, if there are fingers pointing at corrupt activities by any member of our law enforcement authorities, we know that when our ministers are aware of this, they will do something. Where they think the president needs to come in, they will bring the president in. They've always done so. Where there are allegations of corruption within our law enforcement authorities, we have not failed to take the necessary action, either through our own ministers or through the ministers working together with our president. But we will, for me, I've not read the report. I will go and familiarize myself with the facts in the report. I hope I've answered all your questions.
Thank you very much. I think we've come to the end of this media briefing. Minister, did you cover all the issues? I think Karima was asking how the fusion center operates, whether does it exist because of what Minister Lamula had said before, and she wanted you to clarify whether does it really exist, what is the legislation, and how does it function. Thanks.
Is the Fusion Center a legislated entity? No. It's a coordination of work with currently existing law enforcement agencies. Your Hawks, as we have said, the Special Investigative Unit, and other NPA, so that there is seamless between those that investigate, arrest, and those that then take the arrested person for prosecution. So that's what is at present. That's what we are doing at present, bringing all these law enforcement authorities to work together through a house called Fusion Center. Yes, what I've said, Karima, is that yes, Minister Lamula is working on a legislative mechanism through which all of us can fight corruption. You remember even the Hawks, their principled preoccupation is specializing in economic crimes and other related crimes. But this thing called corruption needs special attention and special personnel and a special unit. We had such a unit before that specialized on fighting on anything referred to as corruption. We used to call that unit the Scorpions. So that's what Minister Lamula is working on. How do we, as a country, put together, because now we have in our face accusation of grand scale corruption. And therefore, how do we create an entity that will be able to do justice in the arrest and the prosecution of those people who are engaged in grand scale corruption? So that's what Minister Lamula was speaking to. And indeed, all of us as a country, the other day, I saw in some of the TV discussions some of our colleagues in some NGOs saying that yes, there is a need for such a structure. There is a need for a body that looks at corruption in our country and does justice to all of us, so that as we deal with corruption, we are not dependent on a place called Fusion Center that brings together the Hawks, that brings together the SIU, that brings together also the other people that are involved in this area of work. But if you have a standalone unit that will fight corruption, every time corruption rears its ugly head, the better. So that's what Minister Lamula is working on. But in the absence of such a dedicated corruption buster, we then have all these law enforcement entities working together to fill that vacuum. There have been, again, I've been asked to clarify on Mrs. Diko. When Mrs. Diko, there were allegations directed at her, she opted to take special leave. Now, indeed, in other jurisdictions or in other terminology, the others will say that indeed that would also be tantamount to precautionary leave as well, so that whatever allegations that are directed at the person are dealt with in the absence of the person. So that's what Ms. Diko did, and she is still on special leave, and whilst all these matters, whilst all these allegations are being looked into. I'm told by the DG that I used a particular terminology, precautionary leave. Now, indeed, I use that terminology in the context of what Mrs. Diko herself had done. She asked to be on special leave. And her asking to be on special leave was so that both the department and government as a whole could look into the allegations against her without her being present. And again, that's exactly what we have done, Karima. She is on special leave that she requested, so that government and all other government entities are then able to do what they are expected to do without her being in the vicinity of what is being done with regard to the allegations that have been leveled at him. Have I assisted you, TG?
Thank you very much. We have come to the end of this media briefing. We really appreciate the colleagues who joined us. The statement has been circulated according to Nongeba. So we adjourn. Thank you very much, Minister.